goes into people's minds when they are minutes away from dying. Some would probably go all wild and party until they dropped. Some would write letters about their biggest regrets in life. And some would even confess to murder, a cover-up, or their true identity. The thing with death is it just goes overboard to show up at people's doors when they least expect it. Angela Narcisse and her family thought that their brother had a mere fever. People get fever every day and they're fine and kicking. Clairvius, their brother, even went the extra mile by going to the hospital despite their financial struggles. Little did she know that their brother would not be leaving the hospital alive. Instead, he went straight to the cemetery only 3 days after being admitted. And she now would regret what she could have done to save him. Oh, she would have given anything to talk to her brother one last time. However, to her silent cries, someone was listening. But she was not expecting to be approached by a walking dead man claiming to be her dead brother Clairvius, who had a whole epic story to tell. Hey, my name is Detective Maple. If you like true crime stories and unsolved mysteries, hit that subscribe button because I'm here to bring tons your way. So drape your blanket over your head and let's get spookin'. The Narcisses were a humble household in a village in central Haiti. There is not much information available on the particular upbringing and day-to-day life of the family, though it is safe to assume that there are at least 3 siblings, namely Angela, Clairvius, and another unnamed brother. In most nations in the Caribbean, including Haiti, although most of the population's religion consists of Catholicism, Protestantism, and other branches of Christianity, the people's beliefs commonly overlap with voodoo. With a limited number of health centers, clinics, health workers, and other local facilities, people often turn to voodoo for life success, love, healing, you name it. Despite it being endangered due to the subjection of racism and globalization, according to Elizabeth McAllister, voodoo is the spirit of the Haitian people. Max Beauvoir, known as the Hungan to the Stars, was a voodoo priest who led 6,000 voodoo priests in preventing the U.S. invasion of Haiti in 1994. On the 30th of April in 1962, Clairvius Narcisse walked into the emergency room of the American-directed Albert Schweitzer Hospital an hour away south of Lestere, complaining about aches and high fever. The doctors failed to diagnose his condition, and his symptoms only got worse. On the 3rd day of his admission to the hospital, he was pronounced dead by the local physicians, placed in cold storage for 24 hours, and was later buried. His death certificate was signed, as seen in this image. What's fascinating is that he would claim years later that he was conscious during all of these. He had heard the doctors pronounce him dead, and although his consciousness urged him to do so, he could not move in panic or call for help. Perhaps it was one of the most painful to hear his sister weeping in pain, inches away from his bed, but being unable to console her. For most people, this would be the epilogue. But this is only the beginning of Clairvius' story. Before the zombie plot, let's get to know an important pivotal character to help us answer the hows and whys. When you think of a voodoo priest, what scene do you picture? An old man living alone who probably has jars of petrified creatures inside? He's probably an introvert, a social outcast, a person surviving off potions and garden vegetables. You're probably not imagining a rich sugar plantation owner who has a lot of field workers. But that is the version of the voodoo priest that we are talking about in today's story. They call him a bokor. As a part of the voodoo religion, bokors have the power to create and control zombies. This bokor is a different kind of employer for his sugar plantation. Deviating from the traditional job interviews, contract signings, and all that human resource jazz, the guy has created his own system of hiring people. Step 1. You recognize that you are financially incompetent to afford to pay for a worker. Step 2. So you go to the local cemetery and look for freshly dug graves. Step 3. You do some cardio and dig up the grave. Step 4. Slap the allegedly dead person to wake them up from a nap or borrow them from the afterlife. Step 5. You beat them up to a pulp with a sisal whip, and voila, your own too traumatized to resist, too weak to run away worker, absolutely for free. We can all agree that Boker was not your regular boss. He was an oppressive potion dealer who would force you to go to work even if you're literally buried 6 feet under. Clairvius was underground and resting in peace when this local capitalistic sorcerer dug him out and had him pay years of labor in exchange for his life. Imagine finally resting in peace and someone wants free labor so they resurrect you back to life. Fortunately for his zombie slaves, Boker dies 2 years later in 1964. At this point, most of his slaves had lost their sanity. They were not able to remember who they are or where they're from. Some have lost all sense of identity aside from working in these plantations. Clairvius too was in a state of shock, too traumatized to remember his past in detail. But amazingly, he remembered the village where he lived. That was when he saw and approached his sister Angela in the village in Lestere after 18 long years. At first, Angela thought this was some kind of a sick joke, a prank that targets her vulnerability. Good thing, Clairvius remembered his childhood nickname that no one but his intimate family would know of. It was the magic word, and he cherished this last piece of identity, which brought him back home to his family and friends. For science folks out there, you were heard, and we can see you shaking your heads from 10,000 miles away. Not everyone buys that people could rise from the dead. Haitian-born Dr. Lamar Douillon theorizes that certain drugs slow down the metabolism so much so that the person drugged appears dead. How realistic enough the acts were to convince practicing medical professionals that one has died when they are only in a comatose-like state is a mystery. This drug is referred to as the zombie powder. Fortunately for curious cats, the medical mystery was interesting enough for 28-year-old Harvard ethnobotanist Wade Davis to study Narcisse's case further. He made the impossible task of obtaining the zombie powder in a few weeks. He was referred by a BBC reporter to Marcel Pierre, the Eagle Bar owner, who was a voodoo sorcerer on the side. On the first attempt, Davis found the sorcerer suspicious. He was not an ethnobotanist for nothing. He knew the ingredients he was using would not produce the same effects of symptoms that Narcisse had. After 3 weeks, Pierre was finally able to provide Davis with a physiologically active powder for a price. The vial of dirt-looking poison powder was made from toads, sea worms, lizards, tarantulas, and bones of a human child. It causes someone who is rubbed with it to feel needles on their limbs, very low levels of oxygen, paralyzation, and metabolism drop within 6 hours of contact. These same symptoms, the aching and death-like state, was observed in Clairvius Narcisse. Davis speculates that the poison and circumstances do not always turn out as intended. Some victims could suffocate before they were even resurrected. Most Haitians believe in zombies, so Narcisse's case was not unheard of. That probably explains why Angela did not faint when she saw her dead brother approaching her. In fact, Nzambi was the most popular Haitian word. A few years back, there were girls who were thought to have risen from the dead. In some parts of Haiti, they claim to have seen people mindlessly wandering off the fields. Maybe they are sleepwalking, experiencing hallucinations, maybe they are sick or are getting their daily dose of sunshine. Anything other than being zombies. But what do we non-Haitians know? Hey, at least they are not chasing people down, barging into homes for quick brain meals. Come to think of it, the alleged zombie situation is really sad. Narcisse was robbed of his freedom, his rights, and his identity. The trauma and physical damage the experience has done to him are irreversible. Nevertheless, the existence of the poison powder and its effectiveness is enough for the Haitian people to believe in dead men walking. More disturbingly, Some would stab or decapitate their dead relatives to make sure that they would not turn into zombies. Until Clairvius' death in 1994 at the age of 71, he was probably carrying the horrible experience in his mind. Moments of appreciation for Clairvius, taking a picture on his own grave, owning his history like a conqueror of death he was. Man, what epic lives and how unusual deaths are for a single person. Such a rich, wonderful culture is yet to be fully grasped, and such a mystery in the age of modern science and psychology. Clairvius' case is also a reminder that we, as species, still have more secrets to unveil about death and what goes beyond. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. In the next story, Florence and John knew well that their daughters Joanna and Jacqueline would never come back. They were both killed in a terrible, terrible accident. But John thought that there has to be a way to bring the girls back to their families. Not too long after, his prayers would be answered. Until then, Puppet out.